Hello there, and welcome to my review of the Chaves Knives Clicker Pen. The Chaves Knives Clicker Pen is OEM'd by Riot and is a really interesting EDC style pen with the clicker mechanism. Before I get into the rest of the review, I just want to highlight Chaves's consistently outstanding packaging, in which I have yet another clicker pen, which we'll be discussing later on in the review. The accepted refills of the Chaves Clicker Pen is, in my opinion, its weakest point, being the only advertised refill is the Schmidt EasyFlow 9000M. I assume that you are going to be able to find some other refills in similar pattern or similar styles, and you also may be able to modify certain other inserts, but really that's going to be what you're going to want to stick with, which is a perfectly fine and very good insert. But I know some people have their favorite inserts, which they don't really like to use anything else. But the overall construction is made from titanium, which with Riot being the OEM on this, it's really good quality, lines match up great, everything's really consistent, and both of these pens look really, really fantastic. The texturing on these pens, especially in this main kind of sleeve part, which we'll get into in a little bit, is really cool and really makes these pens really unique. There's a whole bunch of different variations, so many I can't even list them all, but there's also anodized titanium that you can get, and also Damascus in some really interesting colors. The overall length of these pens is 5.15 inches, which means that comparing it against something like the Civivi Elementum and Benchmade Bugout, it's definitely quite a bit shorter. But then comparing it to some actual pens, we'll bring out the standard kind of Sharpie marker and Sharpie gel pen. It's yet again shorter than both, except for when the Sharpie only has its main body. And then when we're taking a look at two other pens, kind of a Bic style pen right here, and then the tactile turn bolt action pen with the longest version lengthwise and it being the standard width, you can see it's yet again shorter than both. And then comparing the weight of these two titanium pens, you'll actually see that this one is a little bit heavier, but is not so much, being at 1.70 ounces, that it's ridiculous, and it's really easy to carry and is very comfortable to use, so the weight is not that bad at all. The overall general width on the barrel of the clicker pen is around 1/2 inch, while the width from the outside of the pocket clip to the opposite side of the barrel of the pen is 0.65 inches. And then the refill comes out from the tip of the pen about 0.15 inches, meaning that it's not the most exposed thing ever, but in my opinion, it's right around that sweet spot, which I prefer. Overall, the build quality, like I mentioned earlier, is really phenomenal. Sorry about the dogs in the background, but I did have an issue with my first dot style Chaves pen having its cartridge kind of leak. Luckily, Chaves was really great about this, and they sent free of charge a replacement dot version, and just told us to send over the leaking one to them, which we did. And yeah, they were really great to work with, really easy to work with, and no complaints there at all. Getting to that, I do think that it started to leak because of the complexity of the pen. It's a really cool design, but the pen is quite complex. It comes apart both at the tip and at the back with this kind of really interesting sleeve, meaning that you could, if you wanted to, change the sleeves out. This works really well. Also, this mechanism comes completely apart, but it does mean that there's more points of failure, and they didn't really keep it simple, which is fine for a kind of desk pen, but in my opinion, for an EDC pen, when it's really where it might be the only thing that you're going to be able to use to write, it's not super desirable. But with that complexity comes this really interesting action, which is really just quite smooth, very subdued compared to kind of like an average clicker pen, but also is not super like clicky or satisfying to fidget with. It's just kind of there and in and out, which does kind of have its own satisfaction, which comes along with it, but I can see why some people might not prefer that. There are also bolt action versions of this pen, like I mentioned earlier, which means that if you like to carry a pen in your pocket, like I do with a tactile turn pen, that may be more desirable due to this getting knocked more easily than a bolt. However, I have carried this particular pen in my pocket, and I actually haven't had that issue as I have with Sharpie pens and other top clicking pens, so I'm not actually too worried about that. Overall, for someone's first kind of more expensive EDC pen, this coming at around $135 and then climbing quite rapidly, it isn't my first choice. I still think that the tactile turn bolt action pen is really a great option, or maybe a big idea design pen would be a better first pen. However, if you already have a good one like that and you like the overall aesthetic, maybe I don't want to say tactile, but more of an aggressive look, especially with this Chaves pocket clip, which I think looks really, really nice. It's definitely a good option, made really well. The people who work on it are wonderful, and yeah, overall, if you like pens, this is a great option. If you enjoyed this review, please consider liking and subscribing, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks.